All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome at WEDVIBES live session. And if you haven't met, but I believe we have. However, if you haven't, my name is Alina. This is Daria with me, and we are co-owners of WEDVIBES. And last night, we just got back from our Sea-Range editorial, Sea-Range Lodge editorial, and that was absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. A lot of nature, dogs, layers of the story. Yeah, and I cannot wait what photographers and our lead photographers, Kellen Rose, created for us. And speaking of style, we have a great topic today to cover with the best speaker to speak about bridal style, Gabrielle Hurwitz. And the topic that we will dive in today is styling the modern bride. And you know, guys, that our mission at WEDVIBES to discover and showcase talents all over the world and help you to convert your talent into success. We also empower you with all kinds of marketing and PR tools, having these live sessions. And we wanted to extend only marketing and PR expertise and talk more about brides and grooms and the trends and what they want, because speaking of editorial and style, we always encourage you to elevate your portfolio, meaning to elevate the wedding day. And I know that a lot of photographers now have bridal stylists in their team because they know that on the one hand, brides always love to listen to your advice because you are artist for them, regardless of your profession. Even if you're not bridal stylist, they expect your expertise. So it will always work in your favor, on the one hand, to do the better job for the bride, on the other hand, to elevate your portfolio in the entire wedding day aesthetics. And also the profession of the, not yet, of the
I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
She was just
All
testing
right.
it.
So before I will pass over to Daria, and Daria will share amazing facts about Gabrielle and why she's the go-to person to speak about bridal style, I will ask you, as a tradition, to drop in the chat your name, your profession, and where you're joining from, as well as I always encourage you to put the chat on fire, be active, and share your comments, insights, and questions, because this is how you can take maximum advantage of this session. And that is actually a very special session because we will speak about style that we haven't, I believe, spoken yet in our live sessions with professionals. All right, so with that, Daria, I think that it's a good time to pass over to you, and you will share amazing facts about Gabrielle, and then we can start.
Yeah, it's my favorite job so far. Yeah, we're thrilled to welcome another icon, I would say, the founded of the wedding world, to one of our sessions, the incredible Gabrielle Hurwitz. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name with my accent, but
No, that was perfect.
So Gabrielle is a bridal fashion stylist, or as she likes to call herself, the bride's creative director. Am I correct? I found it somewhere. And I love this. Like it's just much more like fancy. It has some nice jingle to it. Like Gabrielle specializes in luxury weddings and fashion-forward editorials across the globe, from Santa Barbara to Thailand. And I believe you've been doing it for the past 7 years, right? You guiding brides like through one of the, let's say, the most exciting, the most emotional experiences of the wedding planning, finding the dress of your dream. And we all know it's the first thing the most brides starts actually thinking about. Like nothing else matters, only the perfect dress. So we cannot wait to hear your expertise, Gabrielle, because like you created some iconic images we all seen all around the Instagram, Pinterest, and we all saved it for our future inspiration for our project. So we want to hear your take on wedding fashion, what's trending, and whether should we following the trends at all. So thank you for coming. Thank you for finding time. And thank you and welcome everyone.
Thank you so much for that introduction. As Daria just said, I'm Gabrielle Hurwitz. I'm a bridal stylist. I'm based here in New York. And my background is publication, which is, I think, how I approach a lot of the styling aspect of it and where my eye kind of comes from. It comes from an editorial place. So I'm going to talk about my approach to styling and how I encourage clients to follow trends in a way that feels authentic to them, because one of my biggest things that I tell every bride or groom or client before we get started is that they are not a Barbie doll that I am playing dress up with. It's very important to me that I find a way to help them express themselves as who they want to be on their wedding day. And it's not about, yes, my opinion matters and I will give my opinion to all of my clients, but it's really important for me to help them authentically express themselves on this big day in a way that feels true to them and their vision. So I'm going to kick things off with one of my biggest beliefs, that good fashion is good design. I think that when the fashion at a wedding doesn't speak to the location or the creative design, it's really a missed opportunity. I remember back in my days at Style Me Pretty, we would get like lots of real wedding submissions, and I would see these beautiful, beautiful weddings with like these gorgeous tables, flowers that you couldn't even dream of, incredible stationery, just like all of the details were so perfect. And then it got to the bride and the photo of the bride, and I was like, why did she wear that dress? And so I never want anyone to look at one of my clients' weddings and feel that way. So I really take kind of a big picture approach to the fashion. And I really want the context of the wedding to make sense with the context of the fashion. So I think when the fashion is good, it elevates the work of everyone else on a wedding, which is why I feel so strongly about bridal styling and why I think like everyone can benefit from having a bridal stylist, because I think it makes everyone's work shine in a way that is good for everyone. So again, I come at this from a magazine approach, and think of it as kind of a magazine spread. I storyboard all of my clients' looks together because I really want each look to stand on its own, and each look could be a standalone spread in a magazine, but they all need to make sense together and all need to work together to kind of tell the story of the client and of their personal style. And so I think that's one of the best things about most of my clients are doing multiple days of events, anywhere from like at minimum 3 days, at maximum like 5 to 6 days of events. And so I always tell them that like having multiple days of events is the perfect opportunity to show off different aspects of your personal style. It puts less pressure on the wedding dress to be this like unicorn moment where it has to be everything. It has to be sexy. It has to be timeless. It has to be trendy. It has to be fashion forward. It has to be romantic. Like, no, it can be like one or two of those things, but maybe your ceremony dress is your like traditional romantic, I will look back on this in 50 years and feel timeless and beautiful. And then maybe for your after party, you do something sexy and daring and a little surprising. And maybe for your welcome party, that's your like fashion it girl trend focused moment, because it's a little lower stakes. And those aren't necessarily the photos that you're going to pass down to future generations of your family. So I always kind of approach it as, how can we embrace trends in a way that feels authentic to the client, in a way that makes sense for them and their vision of the wedding? And if most of my clients personally do want to be a little bit more traditional on their wedding day, and whatever that means to them, we'll talk about trends in a little bit, but I think it's about like adapting trends in a way that works for them, so that it doesn't look like you look at their wedding photos in 4, 3, 10, 30 years, whatever it may be, and say, oh, she definitely got married in 2025 because I see every single trend possible. And for some people, they don't care. Like, it's their wedding happened in 2025, embrace it. But I think everyone approaches it a little bit differently. And I think I tailor my approach to styling to the client specifically to make sure that like it's authentic to them. So one of the other things I think about, and I think planners often think about too, is how do you balance functionality and creativity when it comes to the fashion? And so again, that circles back to context for me. So really thinking about the context of each event and making sure that the fashion speaks to the context. So this client right here, she was getting married in Costa Rica, and we knew it was going to be potentially really muggy, potentially really humid, really hot. So we weren't going to put her in anything that wasn't breathable. We weren't going to put her in anything that felt too fussy. She really wanted to blend into the landscape of the venue, which was kind of like sexy and earthy and a little cooler, and not be like a princess moment, because that wouldn't have felt right at this venue. So I always think about functionality in terms of like, is the fabric choice the right choice for this wedding? Is the silhouette make sense for this wedding? Like, sure, you can wear a big ball gown to the beach if you really want to. It's your wedding day. I'm not going to tell someone not to do that. But like, does that make sense in the context? Similarly, shoes, I think, come up a lot for clients. Like, a lot of my clients are getting married outdoors, so we're getting married on grass or on uneven surfaces, and we have to think about the functionality of that. And maybe it's they buy a pair of shoes that they photograph themselves getting ready in, and then they kind of change into a more practical shoe for the actual event, so that they can have that moment of like beauty without struggling all day. Because I think if a client is uncomfortable on their wedding day in their fashion choices, it's going to show up in their body language in every single photo. And that kind of leads me to my next point, that a wedding day is not a photo shoot. I love styled shoots. That's kind of how I built my portfolio. And I think it's hard to sometimes remember that a wedding day is definitely not a photo shoot. And you have to approach a wedding day very differently. Like, you can't control the lighting perfectly. You can't control the weather perfectly. You can't move things in. I mean, as a planner, you can move things inside, but as a photographer, you really are at the mercy of your clients. And I think as the planner, you're at the mercy of your clients too. And so I think it's really important to remember that while it's a job for us, it's a really important moment in someone's life, and we have to really read the cues of a client on their wedding day. And so we want the content that serves us in our portfolio, and I fully get that. And like, there are times when a client goes a little bit rogue and throws on like a bracelet or piece of jewelry that I would not have paired with her gown. But at the end of the day, like, it's her wedding, and she needs to be the one who feels great and comfortable and confident in what she's wearing. So nothing, I try to be really conscious of the fact that nothing I do for my client should come at the expense of their experience. And I think we have to just keep that in mind. I did a wedding a few weeks ago where I could just tell that the bride and groom were getting kind of over photos. They were getting tired, they were getting fussy, not fussy, but like, they wanted to get to their cocktail hour. And I think we have to just remember that, like, it's their wedding day. So if they don't want 45 minutes of portraits, that sucks for us, because like, maybe we really wanted one more location, or we really wanted to do couples portraits with and without the veil, whatever it may be. But I think it's important to remember that, like, the client should never feel like they're serving you or your portfolio. We are serving them. And so that's kind of how I approach it too. And similarly, in terms of fashion, like, on a styled shoot, it's great because you can really express your creativity and do kind of whatever you want. There aren't really limits to that. On a wedding day, you really just need to build them up. Like, I have clients who choose dresses. We get down to like the final two dresses, and I would have chosen dress A, and they fall in love with dress B, and I just have to let it go and tell her it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She looks gorgeous. It doesn't matter what I personally would choose. It's, again, about what the bride would choose. And that's why I like a photo shoot, because I can choose what I would pick. But on a wedding day, it's really about what the bride or groom or newlywed would pick. And really, again, letting your own ego go and doing what's right for the client.
Yeah, it's a good balance to express your creativity on the styled shoots and attract those clients and listen to the
Exactly.
clients. Yeah, it's their wedding day. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's what's so great about a styled shoot, is you can really express your vision and express like how you want to approach weddings, and hopefully attract or create the content that attracts your ideal client. So then on the wedding day, you are feeling inspired. But you need to, I think, find ways on the wedding day, even if it's not everything you would pick out personally. You need to find ways to still be inspired by it and let the client think it's the best thing you've ever seen in their life.
Yep.
Because to them, it is the best thing they've ever seen in their life, you know, especially in that moment. And you always want to build them up and help them just feel incredible. So another thing I feel strongly about, and I will, with the caveat that I will always defer to a planner when I'm going to be on site for a wedding day. I will always defer to them and their preferences. But as a vendor, I like to blend into the guests. I don't want to look like the help, even though I am the help. So I like to dress to the dress code, and I like to dress to the design. And so I will always ask a planner before I'm on site, hey, do you prefer vendors to wear all black and kind of like disappear, or do you prefer vendors to dress to the design and look like a guest? And for me, I prefer to look like a guest, especially because I'm going to be in a lot of the photos of my bride like fluffing her train and I'm walking her down the aisle with her dad holding her train until she gets to the very last spot. And if I am in like a black dress, I just feel like I look like the help, which like some people want, totally fine. But I prefer to look like a guest because I think it's less noticeable in photos. So I know it's harder for vendors. And I think a lot of clients now are getting very creative with dress codes, which I really like. So a lot of my clients will do like creative black tie or tropical black tie, especially if they're getting married in like a warm climate. I've gotten like funky cocktail. I'm helping my clients come up with these dress codes, to be fair. So, but we're kind of stretching the definition of what it means, because I think black tie very traditionally means a black tuxedo for people who don't want to wear a gown. And then for people who do want to wear a gown, like your feet shouldn't be seen. There shouldn't be any slits. There shouldn't be any cutouts. It's more conservative. And so, here are like my definitions of what these mean. I also know that there's dress codes of like formal, semi-formal. I honestly think it all gets confusing. I also hate black tie optional from like an aesthetic perspective. I know a lot of clients choose it because they don't want to ask their guests to like rent a tuxedo if they don't already own one. I think it's confusing. Women tend to have a little bit more flexibility with what they wear, which is great because like as a vendor, I know comfort is like a paramount thought, and we need to be mindful of comfort when we're working. But black tie optional, I just think is confusing. I had a client who did a black tie optional wedding a few years ago, and the groom was in like an ivory dinner jacket and tuxedo pants. The bride was obviously in a gown. Most of the female guests were in like floor length gowns, but then like her uncle showed up in a sports coat and khaki pants. And I wasn't livid, but I wasn't happy with him. So I think like the more information, and this I think is really valuable advice for planners, the more information you can give guests, the better. Whether that's like a mood board that gives kind of direction, or it's descriptions, or better yet, both. I think the more information you can give guests, the better, because I think like the guests are in all the photos. So again, they become kind of a design element in terms of the fashion. And so when the fashion's good, again, it just elevates everything. And you see galleries, you get galleries back, or you're on site at a wedding and you see all these guests and they look incredible, and you just get inspired and you want to shoot them and their cool handbag and their funky shoe and like whatever it may be. And it just makes the entire experience more inspiring and more exciting for everyone involved. So that's why I think dress codes are so important. But it's obviously ultimately, again, up to the couple. So now we're going to kind of chat through trends and fashion right now, what's happening in the bridal fashion space. I hope these photos are loading because on my preview. Okay, great. Because on my preview, they're like not showing up. But okay, hopefully they are. So these are kind of, I think, what is about to hit in terms of trends in weddings, and also you're going to see a lot of in 2025. obviously right now everyone's wearing like basque and drop, not everyone, a lot of brides are wearing basque and dropped waist dresses, which I think is going to turn into more exaggerated hips on dresses. And I'll show you examples of what I mean by that. All of my clients want vintage. I personally attribute that to just the influx of wedding content on social media. I'm finding that a lot of my clients want something that feels truly one of a kind and unique. They don't want something that they feel like they've seen a million times before. And I think it's just, it used to be the case where you knew what like your friend and what your like one person, 1 degree of separation was doing for their weddings. And now you know what strangers on the internet are doing for their weddings. And so everyone's just like so hyper aware. So even if they think they've seen a dress 50 times, they probably have actually only seen it 3 times. But that, a lot of my clients don't want that. They want to be the first, or they want to be totally one of a kind, unique. So I'm seeing a lot of clients who really want vintage. Again, basque and dropped waist, exaggerated hips, bubble hems are having a moment, which like to me reminds me of my junior prom, but a lot of brides seem to really like them. I can't stand them. Dupattas and neck scarves, which again, I'm personally over, but I think they're going to be everywhere in 2025. I think it's kind of the new glove. I think when gloves came out like a year or 2 ago, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so special. This is so unique. This is my cool girl moment. And I think that's what neck scarves are now. And I think this is one of those things that's like a trend that I think works well for a rehearsal dinner or a welcome party. I personally wouldn't do it for a wedding day because I think it instantly says, oh, this dress was from 2025. Like she got married in this year. I think it dates it. Not in a bad, I mean, to me, it's kind of in a bad way, but to the bride, it might not be in a bad way. She might not care that it like gives the sense of place. I see a lot of clients looking for separates, not necessarily for the wedding dress. There's some people are doing separates for the wedding dress, but definitely for like a second look or a rehearsal dinner, welcome party. Halter necklines, I think, are going to be big in the coming year, more so in like 2026 clients. This has been around for a while. I think it's continuing to grow. Wedding wardrobes, clients, again, I'm doing a lot of multi-day events with a lot of outfit changes on each day. A lot of my clients are doing like a full look for getting ready versus just like matching PJs with their bridesmaids. So I think people are kind of using their wedding as that once in a lifetime chance to curate a wardrobe that they wouldn't necessarily spend money on in their day-to-day lives. And then one thing I'm really excited to see more of is unique menswear. I think men are starting to get into fashion in a way that really excites me. Because traditionally, I think menswear has been a little more restrictive in terms of style. Like you kind of have your silhouettes that are kind of go-to, and then you choose your fabric, and then you're kind of done. And now I think you're seeing men take more risk with their fashion, and that to me is really inspiring. So vintage, again, I think is going to be a huge trend. It's a huge trend right now. I think it's going to continue to be a huge trend. The thing that's really tricky about vintage is you have to be an impulsive shopper, which a lot of brides are not. But with vintage, like it's there when you come across it, and then it could be gone within an hour. So if you find something you love, you have to buy it immediately, which is how I've gotten into a lot of trouble. I've become quite the avid vintage shopper and have bought a lot of things that now sit in my closet and I need to resell. But the other thing that can be hard about vintage is a lot of vintage is sold online. And so it's final sale. And so clients have to know their measurements and be really like, be a decisive shopper and be like, okay, I'm going to order this. And if it doesn't fit, I'm going to have to resell it. It's just kind of a risk, which I think is one of the fun things about vintage, but it's definitely a treasure hunt. If clients come to me and they like have their heart set on, I want to wear vintage on my wedding weekend, I like to tell them that we need to have a backup plan just in case they don't come across like what it is that they're looking for. Because you're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack with vintage, like especially if you have your heart set on a very specific, like let's say you have your heart set on a 2003 Ralph Lauren dress. Chances of us finding it in your size, slim. So I always like to say we need to have a backup plan and come up with some other ideas as well, just in case we can't find it. But once you find the perfect vintage piece, it's just kind of a high. I'm not a runner, so I don't know what a runner's high is, but I imagine it's a similar feeling of just like finding the perfect piece and knowing that you can alter it to fit you or whatever it may be, but just knowing that it's truly one of a kind, I think is so special. Here are some basque and dropped waists. I've seen people say that this is the new mason jar. I don't agree with that because basque and dropped waists, like they're coming from a historic place. It's not just like they popped up the way like mason jars kind of popped up when a lot of us got into weddings. Honestly, I think it's a really flattering silhouette. And this is what I tell clients. Like if you're worried about trends and being too trendy, I kind of put that to the side. I think accessories are often very trendy, but like silhouettes, I know that they can be trendy. Like a basque waist and dropped waist is trendy. But if it's flattering on you, and I don't particularly like the word flattering, but if you like the way it looks on you and you like the way it makes you feel, who cares if it's a trendy moment right now? I discovered dropped waists for myself. Like last year, I started wearing dropped waists, and now half my closet is dropped waist just because like I like what it does for my body. And so like I don't care that it's trendy right now as long as it makes me feel good. And I think that's kind of how I approach trends again, is like if it's the version of you want to be on your wedding day, who cares if it's a trend for 2025? And again, I don't agree that dropped waists are the new mason jars because like everything is cyclical in terms of trends. Like in the 80s, it was the big puff sleeves, and then those came back a few years ago. And naked dresses were big when I first started in bridal in 2015. Like all the Israeli designers were coming onto the scene and doing those really, really sheer dresses, and they had a moment for a few years. And now I think they've kind of like gone away, but I'm sure they're going to come back in a few years. You know, it's just like everything old is new again. I see like Gen Zers walking down the street in things that like remind me of bad high school fashion,
Absolutely.
but they like love it. Yeah, you know,
Absolutely.
so like everything old is new again. So if you love it, I think that's all that matters. And if you are like super concerned about not being too trendy, maybe it's finding a dropped waist or a basque waist dress that feels a little bit more classic, like this Ellie Sophocles dress right here. I think does a really good job of like marrying a trend, like the silhouette, with really clean lines and classic fabric details, so it doesn't feel too of the moment. So that's kind of like what's happening now. I think in the next coming years, we're going to see a lot more exaggerated hips, which kind of is a dropped waist and a basque waist in a lot of instances. But at Bridal Fashion Week, we saw a lot of this. I don't even know what we're calling it. This top left corner, this like circular arch on the hip. Saw a lot of that from various designers. Danielle Frankel did it last year, and now I'm starting to see like other designers do it. Like Donna Harrell did this one. Layla Rose did this top left one, or top right, excuse me. And I think we're going to see more of that because it's kind of the next iteration of a dropped waist or a basque waist. And I think, again, it's really flattering on a lot of people. And again, I hate that word, but it makes your waist look really small, which most women want. So I think we're going to see more of that next year. And just peplums are starting to come back, which again is kind of an exaggerated hip moment. So I'm curious to see like how designers are going to move this into the next phase, but I think we're going to see more of it. Again, bubble hems, to me, they're a little juvenile, but that's a personal preference. I know a lot of my clients do them. I just can't get over like thinking about my junior prom dress that had a bubble hem on it. But I think a lot of people think they're really fun, think they're really unique. You're seeing it everywhere. Danielle Frankel does a lot of them. Jay Andrietta does some, Oscar De La Renta does some, and you're seeing them too in like this little peplum moment up here from Sarah Seven, this Kaya mini, the Own Studio midi dress. I think there are different ways to incorporate kind of a bubble hem, whether it's the hem of the gown or the hem of a peplum or whatever it may be. Again, all these trends are kind of like, I think this is what it comes down to, personal preference. Like if you like a trend, use it. If you don't like a trend, ignore it. I think that's the best way to be like authentic to yourself and your style, is to embrace trends that feel good to you, and to not ignore completely, but like no one's forcing you to wear a trend if you don't want to. Again, another trend that I think we're going to see a lot of this year, and I think is kind of overdone at this point, but I think especially in like more mainstream markets, this is going to be everywhere. Every time I'm in a bridal boutique, I hear a bride, not my clients necessarily, but I hear a bride say like, what if we did a neck scarf with this? Because they think it's like the cool girl thing to do. Again, I think it's overdone. I think when it first started, it was pretty, but this Monique I thought was a unique take on it. They did a neck scarf that like ties around her fingers so she can like move around and dance with it, versus just like these drapey ones. Danielle Frankel does a great job of like incorporating them into the design of the dress. So you can't see the back of this one here, but this neck scarf drapes down and then connects to the dress. So it's one piece. It's not a separate piece. But again, I think you're going to see a lot of brides doing this year. I think it's the new glove. I think it'll be done pretty quickly, but I think for now it's having kind of a moment. Again, a lot of separates. I had in 2023, I had like 3 brides wear suits as their second look. They like changed out of their wedding gown and put on a really chic suit. I think we're seeing more tops and skirts, tops and pants. I think, again, once you get to the place where clients are doing like a lot of different looks, I think if they're spending money and investing in their fashion, they want pieces they can pull out of their closet and rewear once the wedding's over. So that's why I think separates come in, because you can like pull out this Wiederhoff corset and throw it on with a pair of pants or a trouser or a jean and wear it again after the wedding. And it's like a special memory from the wedding, but still a really chic fashion moment. Like this client right here of mine wore this incredible Cucciolali Shaheen suit, and she's worn the jacket separately. She's worn the pants separately. She's worn the crop top separately. Like there's just more room to play with things, which I think gives clients freedom to make it their own and incorporate it after the wedding. Halter necklines, I think we're going to see a lot of next year, like in the 2026 collections. I think people are just kind of looking for something new. They're looking for something that's not strapless. So I think we're going to see different iterations of halter. These are all like racer back halters. I think we also will see V-neck halters. But again, just something new. I think something that feels a little exciting. There's only like so much you can do with a white dress. So I think designers are constantly looking for ways to reinvent wedding dresses. And I think a new neckline, a halter is not a new neckline, but like reintroducing the halter, I think we're going to see more of. Wedding wardrobes, again, we've been seeing this for years. This was all one client of mine who got married in Sicily last summer. She had a welcome party, a rehearsal dinner that then she had 2 looks for. She changed on her wedding day. She had 4 looks. She did a getting ready gown, a wedding dress, a reception look, and an after party look. And then on the beach day, she had like a cover up look and then a bikini look, or bathing suit look rather. So I think you're just gonna, again, see more people who want this moment and are embracing this moment, like the one time they're the center of attention, and really like taking that to heart and finding like the most fabulous pieces they can, because this is their time to shine and their excuse to do so. And I think it's fun, and it's a great way. A lot of my clients are incorporating color in their wedding wardrobes at one point or another, again, because they're spending however much money they're spending. They want pieces they can wear again that don't necessarily feel too bridal. So I think it's a fun opportunity to incorporate new things and try out different trends and try different silhouettes and necklines and patterns and colors and prints in a way that like is fun and unexpected. And then finally, unique menswear. I'm really excited about this again. Like I love when this bottom picture is a groom of mine from a few years ago who we did a custom look for his welcome party. But like Charlie Puth wore this really cool Bodie tuxedo for his wedding. This is also Bodie. Tanner Fletcher is like to die for, in my opinion. Their tailoring is incredible. And like I would die to have someone in this bow suit. I just like, I want the men to have more fun with fashion and not just stick to a black or midnight blue tuxedo or a dark colored suit. Like, there's no reason men can't have fun with fashion too. So I'm really excited to see like how men embrace more fashion forward looks going forward, because I think they're starting to, and I think the more we see men push the boundaries a little bit, the more it'll become mainstream. Like, I think in the past few years, I've had a lot of grooms wear like green suits instead of like a blue or gray or black suit. And so I think like that's starting to push the boundaries a little bit, and like unexpected colors. So excited to see like what more comes of that. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about in terms of actually thinking about like style shoots and how you can apply all of this to you is how to avoid falling into the trend trap, I call it. I think in the wedding industry, it's such a small, tight-knit community that we all know what everyone's doing. So we kind of subconsciously end up creating a lot of the same thing. And I think in order to push the boundaries and create like fresh, new, exciting content that inspires people and pushes clients to like do fun, exciting things, we need to think outside of the wedding world, and we need to look for inspiration outside of weddings. So if you're putting together a deck for a styled shoot, I would encourage you to avoid pulling any images or references from other weddings or other styled shoots, and really challenge you to look to interiors, to look to art, to look to fashion, to look to like tabletop design outside of the wedding space. Look at archives of runways, like look outside of weddings for your inspiration, because I think that's what's exciting and that's what creates fresh ideas, that doesn't feel like regurgitated things we've all seen several times. Like, I just went to the Sargent exhibit in New York, and if anyone's in New York, I highly recommend going to it. It was so inspiring to see these massive portraits and to see the fashion that he painted, and just the way the textures of the fabrics and everything. It was just incredibly inspiring. And now I'm like, I want to create a dress for someone that has that kind of draping. So I think like the more we can get outside of the wedding world when looking for inspiration, the better. It just like expands our horizons, it expands our clients' horizons. And that way we don't like end up copying one another. Obviously, none of us are intentionally trying to copy one another. I say that with a caveat, but I think subconsciously we often do create things that look similar to what's been done. And so this, I think, is a great way to avoid doing that.
Not to duplicate unconsciously.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you might not, you probably don't even realize you're like drawing inspiration from something you've already seen, but you very well could be. So I think, again, it's just like, where else can you look? I love interior design. I love seeing how people play with color and pattern and like how people layer things. And I think there's a lot you can take from that. I think obviously looking at like ready to wear and couture and vintage clothing inspires me. Art, architecture, like where else can you look? Food, it could be anything, honestly, but like where else can you look for inspiration that's not the wedding space?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that like concludes my portion. I think I touched on everything.
It was so great. I want just to highlight maybe the biggest insight or takeaway for me. That's my job. I always like highlight something really important. If you guys missed it, I would say that speaking marketing language, you use like push and pull strategy when you work with brides. Push means that, of course, you advise and put together your creative mood board or give ideas. And pull meaning they try to incorporate what they want, and you listen to their feedback, or whatever they prefer, you plug into your concept. So it's a balance, and that's a great point, that the real wedding is not a styled shoot. It's a real life. It's not a model. That's a real woman, and she will be on an imaginary set all day and moving. And yeah, it's really important for us
How
and for
she
everyone.
feels.
The way she feels, like to make her feel comfortable. So that's why it's push and pull in terms of the style, because sometimes the style doesn't really express you 100%, but it expresses the bride. And also it's important that, yeah, it's a real day, it's a real life and real people. And
Yeah, and if you're not feeling like fulfilled by what your client is presenting you with, I think that's when styled shoots come into play, because that can be your creative expression, but like the wedding day is the client's creative expression.
exactly, with your help.
Yeah.
Yeah, with your
And
help.
With your
before
help.
everyone will ask questions, I have one question about the way you work. So if there is only bride, you talk and brainstorm, or you also involve other vendors, and how it works?
Yeah, so when I onboard a client, I always ask to see any design decks or design proposals or mood boards from their planner or designer, just because, again, I think the context is so important. I especially, I mean, for their wedding day, of course, but even more so for like rehearsal, dinner, welcome party, I love to know like where locations are. And then I'll often like Google and look at the interiors and the architecture just to make sure that like I had a client a few years ago who got married or who did her rehearsal dinner at this really architectural, modern, cool winery in the Tuscan countryside.
Mhm.
And so we really like a romantic, frilly, feminine, floral gown would not have made sense in that space. So we did like a more sculptural lanvin dress that felt like a piece of art, and it just made sense with the space. And I'm a very visual learner, so I will like Photoshop photos of my client in certain outfits onto photos of the venue just so we can see like, yes, this makes sense here. So I definitely get the planners involved from pretty early on to make sure that the fashion is making sense with everything they have planned. I don't want to derail the planning process in any way, shape, or form. And then once we've kind of decided on what the client is going to be wearing, head to toe, like here's her dress, here's her jewelry, here's her handbag, shoes, here's her hair and makeup, I'll send out a deck to all of the major vendors. So photographer, videographer, hair and makeup, and planner, just so that everyone's on the same page. And then as the photographer or videographer is like scouting for the day, they can think, oh, she's wearing this like aqua colored dress that would look really fantastic next to the pool. So that everyone is set up for success ahead of the event.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
that makes sense.
it definitely is a part of the process, and I never heard about photoshopping the dresses into like the event. So this is like the greatest
So
tool.
when you and like the main
Great.
setup, the ceremony, and this is
Yeah.
a
I find it's a really helpful tool. A lot of my clients are a little bit indecisive. So when they get down to like 2 or 3 choices, I'll Photoshop their favorite 2, 3 dresses onto photos of the venue and show it to them and be like, here's dress 1 at your ceremony site. Here's dress 2 at your ceremony site. Here's dress 3 at your ceremony site. So they can like get the full picture and see like, oh, this dress makes no sense here. Like it just like doesn't fit the vibe. And then I find it often helps them like make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, actually, I can see the question from Max. How do you establish boundaries with your brides so they don't deem you as a personal assistant?
Hmm.
Like going for like the different boutiques
That's a
for show the
great question.
yeah.
It's a great question. I try to keep things as kind but professional as possible. Um, I I will become friends with a lot of my clients, but we don't like they are paying me. So like I'm not their friend. But I'm also not their personal assistant, and I'm not a personal shopper. So if a client comes to me and knows exactly like the specific pieces they want, that's not really the right fit. I It's a really collaborative process, and we should work together to find the right pieces. And I want someone who's going to trust me to present them with exciting things that they might not have thought of on their own, and they might be like, that's crazy, I would never try that on, but I'll try it on for you. In terms of like not being a personal assistant, I just like I'm pretty firm about boundaries. Like I don't I in my contract are my office hours. In my contract is how we communicate, which is via email. If a client texts me after hours, I will do my best. I mean, it's never an emergency. That's the thing. Like it's a wedding. It's not life or death. So I won't respond until my
Yes.
business hours. I just try to keep boundaries in place, and like it's a job. I'm not here to
No.
it's a fun job, but it's still a job. So
Yes.
I try to keep things as professional as possible.
Yeah, I mean that's how you're setting the boundaries. You just, I mean, it's not that simple, but kind of like letting them know that yes, that's not the heart like surgery or something. Yes, it's still waiting. You still have like a year to go, and yeah, you will come back in the office hours. The
Yeah,
question.
it's not
Yeah,
urgent. It's very, very rare that something comes up that is truly urgent. And if it
It's
is
not.
urgent, I will help them. But it's very rare that it can't wait until 9 a.m. the next morning.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, question from Pooja. I have a bride that is doing wedding shopping before we finalize the decor design at a venue. How can I best guide her in the process? Do we choose decor based around the dress attire?
That's a great question. I think the venue can inform a lot in terms of the design of a dress, even if you don't have like a color palette picked out um or like design finalized. But like for example, you guys just did a shoot at Sea Ranch. I think that already informs so much of what makes sense,
About the
even if you
style.
don't have a color palette picked out. Like Sea Ranch, a super traditional lace Monique Lhuillier ball gown is just going to feel totally out of place, in my mind at least. Like, I think you need something that feels more organic and maybe even more modern and just follows the lines of the venue. So I think as much as you can, guide her in terms of like keywords of what the design direction will be and kind of give her a mood of what the design direction will be, even if there's not a specific design set up. So, like, I'll give you another example. If someone's getting married at like Villa d'Este in Lake Como, you want something that has a presence, that has some grandeur, that like feels romantic and not historic necessarily, but like has some kind of presence, for lack of a better word. It's a very different dress than the dress you'd wear to Sea Ranch. So I think just like as much as you can guide them with keywords and kind of giving them a mood to think about as they do their shopping, that's doing them a service.
Yeah, so if they already have a venue that's already basically has some sort of style and you can guide them through that.
Or
Yeah.
if you pre-decided on your dress, you can Photoshop your dress to several venues, and you can say that,
Yeah.
oh, like this villa
Let's
doesn't
go
make
with
any
this
sense with this
villa.
dress. I'd rather choose another villa.
I typically recommend having your venue and your date before you start dress shopping. I will flat out tell people like you don't have a date, you don't have a venue, we can't start working together yet. Because again, a winter dress is very different than a summer dress because we have to think about heat and
Yeah,
fabric and everything like
oh,
that.
like the layers for the winter. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a joke, but it's
No, absolutely. I have had clients choose their dress before their venue, and then I was like, what are you doing? This dress makes no sense. Like, now that you have your dress, we need to find a venue that fits it. But
Yeah, I mean, you can do it in any way, like that you make you feel comfortable as a bride.
yeah.
You can start with a dress, and then everything will, yes,
Yeah.
come. Okay, I think we can take one more question.
Okay.
Here, which one?
Actually, I
Yeah.
like the one about the full design because I had it in mind. So I will take a privilege of being the host. Do you also do the full event design or just bridal styling? How do you draw the line? I would extend mine because you mentioned that you do the guest dress code and okay, yeah. So what you usually normally cover?
So I basically I don't do event design, I just do fashion. So I have very strong feelings about event design, but I'm not an event designer. So I just handle the fashion. The relationship, I consider myself a full service stylist. So the relationship starts typically with the couple getting married, and we'll do both members of the couple from head to toe for their wedding day, and then any other events they're planning. And then it often evolves to include parents, siblings, grandparents, wedding parties. I do a lot of bridesmaids and groomsmen, flower children, ring bearers. Basically, anyone who's going to be a VIP in wedding photos, I will style. And then guest mood boards, I think, are again so helpful to give guests like the expectation. This is what we would love you to show up in. And if they listen to it, fantastic. If they don't, there's only so much you can do.
That's true. Yeah, you
That's
cannot.
very true.
You cannot tell
You
them that
can
what to
you
wear.
can lead a horse to water, but like you can't force it to drink, you know?
Yeah, I love this expression. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. Like we learned
Thank you.
so much about the trends and how to basically listen to your client. And if you want to once again express yourself, you can do it during the editorials, the style shoots. And I really, really love the hack about photoshopping the style into the event. I think this is great in terms of like seeing the overall picture. Thank you so much. I can see guys are sending you like thank yous. This was
And
Oh,
wonderful. This
thank
was
you.
for all
educational.
the trends, because we will be
Yes.
preparing our trend report soon. So you
Yeah.
pretty much contributed to it. It was a great inspiration for us. And thank you again. And I hope that we will reconnect again with you when we will do the
Yeah.
2026, 27 trends. And yeah, guys, that's a good time to draw a line. How grateful you are for
Thank
all
you so
the trends.
much.
And have a
Thank you.
great rest of your day, your night, wherever you're located.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of your day. Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.